Iran says it loud and clear. If Israel strikes, the U.S. will be held responsible. As nuclear tensions flare, Tehran and Washington head to Rome for high-stakes talks. Uranium enrichment is at the center of a global standoff. While the West draws red lines, Iran insists its nuclear rights are non-negotiable. Can diplomacy diffuse the pressure, or are we watching the fuse burn down in real time?
Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Good to be here.
Today, we're really getting into a very tricky area, Iran's nuclear program. We're looking at the current talks, the rising tensions.
Yeah, it's definitely complex. And for this, we're drawing on a recent report from CBC. It gives a pretty good snapshot of where things stand right now.
And it's important to understand this stuff, right? I mean, whether you're studying for something like the UPSC exams or you just want to stay informed about global affairs, this isn't just abstract news.
Absolutely. It's critical context. So our goal today, using this CBC source, is to unpack what's happening, who the main players are right now, and, crucially, what the big disagreements actually are.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The report highlights the tension immediately. Apparently, Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araqi, sent a letter to the UN just last Thursday.
That's right, and it's quite pointed. He basically said, Tehran holds the U.S. responsible if Israel attacks Iran's nuclear sites.
Responsible based on what?
Well, he linked it to U.S. media reports suggesting Israel might be planning something like that. The language, according to the source, was stark. Something like, in the event of any attack by the Zionist regime, the U.S. government will also be involved and bear legal responsibility.
Wow, okay. So that definitely ramps things up.
It does. It sets a very tense tone.
And yet, despite this really sharp rhetoric, talks are still scheduled.
Yeah, that's the sort of contradictory part. A fifth round of Iran-U.S. nuclear talks is apparently set for this Friday in Rome.
Rome. Who's mediating?
Oman is facilitating this round. It's been confirmed by Oman's foreign minister on X and also by Iran's foreign ministry spokesman, Esmail Bakai.
So even with the warnings, there's still a channel open.
It seems so. It shows there's still, perhaps, a perceived need for direct communication, even if it's tense.
And the stated aim of these talks, is it the same old story?
Pretty much. A new agreement. Iran curbs its nuclear activities, and in return, it gets sanctions relief. Simple on paper, eh?
But incredibly complicated in reality. Which brings us to the background, I suppose. Why a new agreement?
Well, you have to remember the context. The U.S., under President Trump, walked away from the original 2015 deal back in 2018.
Right, pulled out unilaterally.
Exactly. And then, about a year later, Iran started rolling back its own commitments under that deal. So these talks now are basically trying to pick up the pieces or build something entirely new.
Okay, so that leads us to the core problem, the main hurdle mentioned in the source.
Uranium enrichment. This is the absolute sticking point. The positions seem miles apart.
Right. Let's break that down. What's Iran's position, according to Araqi again?
He's quoted saying enrichment is non-negotiable and that it will continue with or without a deal. That's pretty clear.
And they're currently enriching up to 60%, the report says.
Yes, 60%. And you need to remember, the 2015 deal limit was way down at 3.67%.
Okay, so 60% isn't weapons grade, which is around 90%, but it's a huge jump from the old deal.
A massive jump. It significantly shortens the time they might need to reach weapons grade if they decided to. That's the main concern.
And how does the U.S. side respond to this non-negotiable stance?
Well, the report quotes Steve Witkoff, who's identified as the key U.S. negotiator. In an interview back on May 9th, he apparently said their red line is no enrichment, full stop.
No enrichment at all.
His quote was, an enrichment program can never exist in the state of Iran ever again. So, yeah, a complete ban.
So one side says it's non-negotiable and ongoing. The other says it can never happen again. That seems irreconcilable.
It certainly looks that way on the surface. And adding to that, you have Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. He's expressed doubt about the talks even succeeding.
Oh, really? What did he say?
He apparently said, we don't think it will lead to any outcome, and called denying Iran the right to enrich a big mistake.
So the top leader is skeptical. The negotiators have opposing red lines.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound promising for this Rome meeting.
It highlights the immense challenge, definitely. And then there's another layer, the European angle.
Ah, yes. The E3, Britain, France, Germany. What's their role here?
According to the source, they're thinking about triggering the snapback mechanism.
Right. That would bring back all the UN sanctions that were lifted under the 2015 deal, wouldn't it? because Iran isn't complying.
Exactly. And the report notes this option for the Europeans runs out in October. So there's a kind of deadline looming.
And Iran's reaction to that possibility.
Arachi warned of irreversible consequences if they do trigger snapback. So more pressure, another potential flashpoint.
Okay, so putting it all together, you've got these high-stakes warnings like the letter to the UN. You've got talks happening, but maybe low expectations.
And then this fundamental clash over enrichment with negotiators seemingly entrenched and the supreme leader publicly doubtful.
Plus, this ticking clock with the European powers considering snapback sanctions. It's quite a tangled web.
It really is. All these factors are pushing and pulling at the same time, making the whole situation incredibly fragile.
So the big question the report leaves you with is, given these diametrically opposed positions, especially on enrichment, and these very public red lines, what's realistic? Can they find a way through, or is more tension almost baked into the situation now?
That's really the core question for anyone watching this. It's something to really think about.
Well, we hope this deep dive, based on that CBC reporting, has given you a clearer picture of this really critical issue.
Yeah, understanding these nuances, the specific disagreements like enrichment, the different players' positions, it's vital whether you're studying for UPSC or just trying to follow world events.
Definitely. If you found this helpful, please do like and subscribe for more deep dives into important current affairs.
And if you have more questions or other topics you'd like us to explore based on reliable sources, just drop a comment below.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.